What we're going to be talking about today is what agentic AI is and the different tools that we're using in the agentic AI space, what my background is, and effectively how I use it in my business, both on the MHP Pro side and in my Archangel Investments business. This is my website. This is my business. And most of you who are on this call know that because we work together on the MHP Pro side, and we're now supplementing our business with AI in a number of ways. A lot of that stuff is desktop type stuff, but hopefully this actually manifests itself in our properties at some point, whether that is through just data analytics, and that could be through your rent manager platform, or sometimes I've leveraged it to analyze water usage for my tenants. And if anything is out of sorts, basically it'll let me know. So there's cool ways that it's manifesting in the real world through data. And I'm sure that as we move into the future, that'll get better and better as well. So let's jump in here. The first thing I want to talk about is, what is this platform? What is OpenClaw? OpenClaw is basically a bot that doesn't just live in an LLM, right? So typically when we talk about an LLM, if we were to quickly go to OpenAI and ChatGPT, what we're going to see is that we can have a conversation with our chatbot that has limited context of that chatbot. What we've done with OpenClaw is we've expanded outside of just the context of that chat. And we've actually gotten to the point where these things remember exactly what you've said the previous day, the previous week. There's context that lasts for a much longer time. And the way that context exists is complicated and difficult to understand and not necessarily within the scope of this conversation. But what you do need to know is, if you're using this thing for a week, a month, 2 months, it's learning based on everything you've told it and all the context within its files. So that is unlike ChatGPT, although I think with ChatGPT and Claude, what you'll notice is you'll mention something in this chat and it'll take reference from other chats. And you'll think, okay, the context is there, but the context is not really that deep. The layers of context are much slimmer than what you're getting with agentic AI and the complexities of all the files inside of an agent system versus a ChatGPT or an LLM, as we call it, so a large language model in a chat box. So we're freeing it of this chat box. We're saying, hey, you can leave this prison that you have here where you can only just type things back to me. And instead, I'm going to give you the freedom to actually perform actions in the real world based on what I tell you to do. Now, this is a game changer because now instead of just getting information and then acting on it in here, you can have your agent act on it within all of your different database systems, right? Whether that's your social media platforms, whether it's your accounting software, whether it's your project management softwares, whatever your mind can basically think of, it can do. And that's what we're going to basically prove to you today through some examples, as well as some basic demos. Like, hey, what are some simple ways that we can use this versus what are some more complex ways that we can use this? So what is the difference between this and Claude Code? There's some major differences that we just have to cover here. Runs autonomously for hours. Claude Code and OpenClaw, similar processing power, same exact models that it's using. Claude Code obviously is using Anthropic's Claude. OpenClaw, you can use any of the models you want it to use. So we'll talk about how you can specify the model that you want it to run on. Whereas Claude Code only runs on Anthropic and you're stuck in their systems. On the OpenClaw side, we can run as many models as we want for as long as we want. So say you run out of tokens, the ability to then switch to another model so that you can continue to run your processes is massively powerful in an OpenClaw system. And so it can run autonomously for hours. That means overnight, it's doing things for you. It's building things for you. It's learning new things. It's building in context. Skills live in markdown files. Again, this is out of scope for you guys' understanding and knowledge base, but just think of this as the different chats that you have with ChatGPT. All of those different contexts are in what's called a markdown file inside of its internal database. That's different than Claude Code because Claude Code lives on your desktop. Same concept, those markdown files are on your desktop, Whereas these skills and markdown files are in the cloud and accessible via your server, which can be accessed anywhere. So if you're leaving your Claude Code database behind, say you're going to a conference next week, OpenClaw is coming with you. Claude Code can, but it's a little bit more difficult to bring that work along with you. And preference for OpenClaw there. Accessible from any device via your messaging apps. We covered that. I can open Telegram, WhatsApp, Slack, any of my messaging apps and just talk to it as if I'm texting one of you. Persistent context. It's always going to have knowledge of your previous chats. Best for real world business tasks spanning APIs, spreadsheets, email, LinkedIn. All of the context from the outside world is going to be built into this. And then there's a skills marketplace that we're building, but there's also one that exists online where you can download skills directly to your bot. Again, I want to urge caution here because the one difference between this and this is that this is open source, which means that it's a software that was built by someone who doesn't want any money, right? Like OpenClaw is built by the public for the public, and it will always remain for the public. Whereas Claude Code is a lab that is trying to be profitable, right? And so how they use your data, the different ways they're storing your data and maybe providing it to others is a really gray area when you sign those terms of use. Whereas everything you create in OpenClaw lives within your server, right? And it's not shared with the outside world. It is yours forever. The difference here is Claude may have more security built in because they're enterprise, right? They're enterprise level software, where OpenClaw remains a little bit for your security measures to be intact. So what does that mean? I wouldn't share my banking information with OpenClaw. I might share it with Claude Code because there's maybe less of a chance of it leaking. There's not no chance. There's never zero chance. We've seen this with hundreds of different data providers, Experian, letting loose all of your social security numbers. There's a ton of examples of really large enterprise organizations losing your data to hacks. So while this is enterprise level security, that doesn't mean much if they get hacked, and they just did. I think a night or two ago, there was like a Trojan injected into Claude Code's system during one of their updates, and then they had to correct for that. So understand that security is a concern on either side of the equation, but you need to be more cognizant about what you're giving OpenClaw. One of the biggest things that we're trying to solve for, and one of the biggest differences as well between Claude and OpenClaw, is the visualization layer of Claude Code, right? So you're going to see examples of me creating visualizations via OpenClaw, right? But I need to be not smart enough, but I need to know what I'm doing to create those. And that's as simple as talking to it and saying, hey, build this and then show it to me. But that's not immediately apparent to most people. Because they're used to operating in an LLM structure, they have to change the way they think and the way they interact in order to get the outputs they need. And we'll talk about that in more depth. However, on the Claude Code side, you're actually going to see it in real time, like building those things on one side of the screen versus the other. Hey, I'm talking to it here, and it's building those things here. I'm talking to WhatsApp, or I'm talking to Telegram or Slack, or when I'm talking to OpenClaw. So there's less of a visualization layer unless you're correctly optimizing for that visualization. And again, we're going to show examples of that. I would like to bring either Ramez, Aziz, or Amin to the front end here to talk through some of the things I may have missed on this comparison.
Yeah, you pretty much explained everything here, Michael. Basically, Claude Code is one of the tools we use to run OpenClaw, but Claude Code is exceptional at running code and like doing software development related tasks, while OpenClaw is like using the model from Claude to run different skills and different tools. Basically, the sky is your limit. You can run whatever you want using Claude Code's subscription itself.
Yeah, that pretty much says it all. Again, developers are using Claude Code a lot. OpenClaw, a lot of people who aren't developers are using it. I am not a developer, although I'm a developer adjacent thanks to my team here. So I'm starting to use Claude Code a bit more, but I use OpenClaw primarily, and we'll see why. So here are some simple use cases, right? And these are going to be any of these examples, like add XYZ to my calendar and invite Amanda Magalhaes, who's my wife, right? This will add it directly to my calendar immediately, right? So a good example if you just want some basic functionality, like how many times have you been in a situation where you wanted to add something to your calendar, but it was accessing 3 different apps to get there and then pressing the invite button, sending it to them, making sure everything was correct? Just talk to the bot. It'll do it for you. Rename my pictures and put them in the correct folder. Another really easy example. I've a million times been given pictures of progress on site for my contractors, and there's like progress photos. So I just send it to OpenClaw. It knows to actually take a look at those photos, rename them for the context, and then it might ask me, hey, where is this going? Which lot is this associated with? Which property is this associated with? And then I'll tell it and it'll drop it in the right file in the right lot folder. Google Drive, find me this file in my Google Drive and give me the link. I just use this probably 14 times a day because I don't want to dig through my Google Drive folder to get that link. Give me a summary of my last call from Claude. So Claude's one of my call recording devices. You can also replace this with Fathom. You can see my Fathom link in here. R2D2 is actually present and he's recording this call. So after the call, I'll get a summary in my OpenClaw bot of what happened, and I can query that summary or that transcript if I wanted to. And even in the future, it's one of the coolest things. I didn't even tell it to do this. Every time I have a call with someone on this call, like it could be Renee, it could be Richard, it could be Ramez, could be anybody, it'll take a look at previous context in my Fathom database from calls that I've had with those people, and it'll pull the context, and then it'll give me a summary of what the last things we discussed were, and maybe what follow-up items were discussed on that call. And were those completed? Now I have an idea of what we talked about last time, and I can enter that call with that context, that knowledge. It's really useful, and it just pops up right on my messaging app. So create a cron job to tell me the weather in New York and Horseheads every morning at 7 a.m. So why do I live in New York and my properties are in Horseheads, and I have contractors on site every single day who can or cannot work on homes based on if it's pouring rain. So I like to know this ahead of time. So maybe I could change what their assignments are for the day based on that. Perfect example was today. We had someone who couldn't work on the exterior of a home, so we put them in the interior of another home to work on that instead. And then finally, example 6, a complex multi-step task. So I'm staying in Horseheads for the next 3 days. Create a calendar invite for me and Tiernan Lau, who is my business partner, spanning the 3-day period. We're staying at 3133 Lake Road. Please find good restaurants and coffee shops nearby and put them in the description along with driving distance in miles and time from where we are staying. I've done this. It's incredible. I've done it on trips with my spouse when we're going upstate, and it's given me fantastic recommendations. I ensure that I also specify what we like. This is not an entire description. Sometimes if you want a quick one, this will do it, and then you can refine it from there. This basically saying you do this exactly like I just showed you, basically copy and paste these with your context into the chatbot, and then it's doing those things for you. Anything you guys wanted to add there or questions so far?
I was going to say, well, you said just the convenience of having it pull from your Google Drive and give you a link. I find myself using the OpenClaw bot for just like basic stuff like that. That's just pure laziness. It's not like any advanced really task, but just really simple stuff. And it saves a little bit of time, but that compounds and you're saving little bits of time all throughout the day. And you're just getting way more stuff done.
Cool. Thank you, Tiernan. Yeah, agreed. The next thing I show you is going to blow your mind, but simultaneously, I created this demo a half hour before this meeting. Just if that doesn't show you how quickly you can spin something up that you're going to effectively use in the real world, right? And now this is going to be based on a skill that I created previously that I created the demo for tonight, but I literally at 5 o'clock, I started creating this and it worked. Anything that anyone on the call wants to add about things they've done with their OpenClaw bot that are complex or simple or have been a game changer for them?
Just creating PDFs on my phone is so great. It's like docs and sheets are just terrible on mobile. But with OpenClaw, being able to just dictate either via text, because I can type a million miles an hour with my thumbs, but on a computer, much slower. but being able to text and dictate the terms of a certain agreement or contract, or even as a voice message, and then just having a PDF made instantly, analyzing it, okay, make these changes, and then it changes it, and then, okay, email to this person. It's amazing. And it basically turns your phone into a control panel for your computer or for your email, for anything. And it even turns even more than your phone, your voice, just dictating, this is the things that I want done. And you're just speaking it into the universe, and then it's done. It's incredible.
I set up a separate email address, Mike, that's just for mobile home park deals to come into. And then it does like a batch every morning to just scan through it. I gave it my criteria. I want over 50 homes, 80% TOH, this price range in these regions. And it only alerts me if it hits my criteria, and then does like an initial underwriting. So I'm not wasting my time going through all those emails like I used to.
I love that. I love that. And I actually have that as a simple example too. Like we have our 5-minute deal evaluator here. For those of you who are not mobile home park related, apologies ahead of time, but a lot of the people in this group are real estate focused. That I also have 2 other businesses that are more online business focused. So we're tailoring this to everyone, but in the realm of mobile home parks, and you do, as Eric was saying, need to siphon through a ton of emails with deals that you may want to pursue. And so being able to just forward that to either OpenClaw to do this type of underwriting for you, hey, pull the OM, put everything into the right sections of this underwriting, or even create a second tab inside of this after you duplicate it for that deal with all the context of that deal, so then I can fill it out. These are amazing things that it can do on your behalf, and then basically provide you with that list of links of the underwritings. And that's not even taking into account the incredible things we're building on the MHP Pro side that are software focused, which we can dive into on another call. But agreed, Eric, like just the email itself, right? When you're sending it emails, that's also a way to communicate with it. And every day it ingests emails from its inbox and then creates basically a summary of those emails for you. Okay, so jumping back into a little bit more of a complex use case, because I know a lot of you are saying, great, like it's nice to have like my own little personal assistant, but what can this actually do? I think Eric gave a great example, right? Let's take it one step further. So a lender outreach skill. So in the context of real estate, one of the things that we need to do as real estate owners is every time we're entering a new market, especially if the deals are smaller, we need to basically go out to market and find lenders and determine whether or not they're going to be good lenders for this specific deal. And those are typically market specific. So you'll have credit unions and local banks in that area who will want to lend on that small piece of real estate. So typically this is a very manual process, and you have to go out and then search for those individual lenders yourself and then create what amounts to a lender diligence document, which is what I have here. So I actually built this for my students at the MHP Pros, whereby they can go out and they can create a list of banks that they've researched and then determine whether or not those are good banks for this deal. Incredibly manual process. And by the way, you then have to go to email all of them and get this information like, hey, what kind of rates can we get? What are the terms? What are the LTVs? What are the amortization? All of these different term sheets that you have to siphon through. So what if you didn't have to go out, find all these banks, find all the context associated with those banks, and then reach out to them individually? What if you could have OpenClaw do that for you? So this is the ideation phase that we all should be going through, which is basically, what are these repetitive things that I do and that are all done via desktop? And how can I translate that to an OpenClaw workflow that works on my behalf? And so that's the overview of what you need to do. How does it run? It runs Places API search, right? Which is basically a Google API. And then it does website research to locate the landing pages for those commercial lenders. It then uses Appify, which I'm going to show you here. This is a must-have for anybody running OpenClaw. Basically has a ton of APIs that connects into different types of platforms with one API code. We'll talk about what an API code is. If you don't know it, you can raise your hand and ask that question if you want me to get into that more deeply at some point towards the end. But basically, an API just talks to other systems and softwares. So If you have Appify, you can connect to a bunch of them very quickly versus having to go to those individual sources and pull them yourself. So Appify is going to go ahead and pull actually information from LinkedIn on all the individuals who meet the criteria of the banks that we mentioned. Hey, they work here and they're on the lending team. Appify is going to go out and find those people. Then it's going to do LinkedIn outreach for me. So I'm actually going to give it my LinkedIn login, and then it's going to go and it's going to find those people that it just searched for on LinkedIn, use their link to actually connect with them. It's using a headless browser. This is a head. Headless means it's just the cursor and basically the bot running backend processes on a browser itself, right? Instead, and it's going to click connect, and it might even, if you say so, create like a little message to send them as well. Hey, I'm looking at this deal in this place, and I'm wondering if you can give me some terms. Then it will update the spreadsheet for all of that information and whether or not it was reached out to. And then it creates an email draft for me. So what you can have it do if you're really living on the edge is do basically the reverse of what Eric did, which is, hey, he has an inbox that's flooding with things that it wants the OpenClaw bot to read, but you can also send emails from that same inbox. So you can do one of two things. You can give it access to your entire inbox, which I do not recommend, because that means that all of your one-time passwords will be exposed to the bot, which again, we want to be cognizant of security. Or you can create a separate inbox for it, which we do with every one of our clients, so that it can send and receive from that email address. And by the way, it will always CC you if you ask it to. So pretty cool. I have not done this yet because I'm not as spicy as some people are in terms of dealing one-on-one with lenders. I want to have a personal touch in all my messages. And so I will take what it drafts and I will actually produce the email and send it to each of those individuals from my personal inbox. But again, sky's the limit as to what you can do and automate. So now let's take a look here at how this works. And again, I just created this for this demo. This is the demo version, and we're going to see what it can do from a visualization standpoint, right? This was just me talking to it over the last hour. Hey, I want to create this demo for everybody because I want them to actually visually see what's going on. And then, oh, by the way, the demo's created, but it's using dummy data. So now let's take it a step further and actually use real-time data so we can underwrite someone's deal. And I'm probably going to leverage you, Eric, for the live demo in a second here, but let's go through the dummy data here. Horseheads is an area that Tiernan and I invest in pretty consistently. We want 50-mile radius for mobile home parks and a $350,000 loan. It's actually got 18 lots. Let's remedy that there. And then let's go start lender discovery. So it's going to query the lenders and it's going to find all these lenders in the Elmira area, right? 50 miles actually got to Buffalo too. It's regional. There's an M&T in Elmira as well. Now we're going to go to the next step, which is going to research. It's going to actually look at all their commercial lending web pages and find all the web pages for me. So if I want to go to them direct, it's going to do that. It actually gives me the phone numbers for those lending websites, which either are on the landing page or it did via Appify to find them, right? And then I'm going to go to find contacts, and it's going to find the commercial lending contacts and show me their email addresses and all of the names and what their position is, et cetera, at all of these different organizations. And then you can begin the outreach step. So, this is actually it going into LinkedIn and sending those requests to all of these individuals on your behalf, right? And so this I view as low risk. Why? Because it's just sending a LinkedIn request, right? Everyone gets LinkedIn requests every single day. It's not like they can tell whether a bot sent it or I sent it. Now I have them as a connection. Hopefully they respond yes. And when their connection request comes up, then I'll reach out to them on LinkedIn as well, manually. All right. So then finally, we're here at the campaign results. So what did we find? And then we're going to go to open full spreadsheet, and it's going to produce basically this document for me where it has all the email addresses, all the phone numbers, where it got those financing leads, the actual banks themselves. And again, I had previously filled this out. This was just an example, but now we'll do a live one. So again, built this within 20 minutes of this meeting. And now we'll talk about the actual live one here. So let's use Eric as an example. Eric, do you feel comfortable talking about a deal that maybe you worked on recently that you're already under contract for, or maybe one that you're coming up on that isn't too sensitive?
Yeah, sure. I wish I had it ready to go. We just put an offer out on, I actually got the PSA back from the seller yesterday. We got to get a response to them. But yeah, we could start on that. This one's in Okeechobee, Florida.
Let's call it Eric. And then lot count?
I think this one is 53.
53. And then what is your estimated loan amount?
Let's say 1.5.
Okay. 1500.
My friends call it Choby.
Obi, there you go.
Okay, so it just did this already somehow. I don't know how it was that quick, but Appify is insane. So I found all the banking institutions. Let's find the lender contacts. This might take a little bit longer because Appify has to run basically a background process, and hopefully it does the job that it did when I did it initially. Oh, there you go. Wow, it actually did work. I'll explain exactly how I built it with the step-by-step process right afterwards, but let's see what happens here. Continue to outreach. Okay, so now it's going to give you the email template. This is pretty lame. We can refine this. And then the LinkedIn connection note. And then and maybe Ramez or Aziz can step in here, but there have been some changes at Claude and Anthropic recently. I tried to add in the automation step for it to actually reach out to these people during this stage. And I kept getting this terms of use issue where basically was saying, hey, I can't do this. Maybe you can see it here. LLM request rejected, output blocked by content filter policy. So I had to work around this and basically figure out what was being blocked by the LLM. And it turned out that it was basically automation on LinkedIn. So maybe LinkedIn has added some requirements to LLMs to not allow any type of automations. But in any case, that step usually works when you're just running it through OpenClaw. It doesn't seem to want to work when I do the live data. But anyway, we'll export.
I think the messages have to be slightly different. That was my concern because I was trying to do this for my roofing business. I think the messages have to, they can't be the same exact message going out to everybody.
That makes sense. Okay. Maybe that's what I need to do then. So here we go. It basically has created all these contact lists for me. And now it's going to export to Google Sheet. So Okeechobee, there it is. There are the banks it found. And there are the contacts, right? So now you could take this and you could go one step further. You could give this to OpenClaw and say, hey, I want to move all of these new financing leads into my lender diligence document. Okay, and so we'll give it this. We'll say all these new financing leads, and we'll give it this. And then make sure that this is separate because sometimes it can get funky if you add in a character at the end of a URL. Just be careful of that. But I'm going to add in the actual lender due diligence document here too. And I'm going to say, make a copy of the lender diligence document so as not to overwrite. Then send me the new link with the new copy. Okay. Let's see what it does. And in the meantime, we'll walk through the build, right? So this is my command center, and these are some of the stuff you can build. We could talk through this as well if we have some time at the end. But in my docs folder has all of my memory, right? So inside memory, somewhere in here, and honestly, I don't know where because I don't really look at it that often. Maybe it's inside tools. Maybe it's inside, it should be inside like skills, and maybe someone from the dev team can help me find it here. But effectively, there's a skills folder inside of your OpenClaw's knowledge base, and you can find that skills document, and you can basically add skills and projects to it so that on a go-forward basis, if you call that skill, it's going to know what skill you're talking about, and then it's going to be able to reperform the thing that you just taught it how to do. So my advice to you is when you're building something, when you're done building it, say, let's save this as a skill. And then that skill will be saved into its memory that you can then recall later. So that's how I build skills every single day. Basically, I'm just talking to it, hey, do this, and then say, save this as a skill.
Yeah.
Is there a question?
Yeah, I
Right,
don't think it's showing in here, but yeah, there is a folder always in your OpenClaw that's called skills. I don't think it's shown correctly in your browser. And then the second part is tools.md. You might want to also play around with that. Tools.md just tells your OpenClaw which skills to use in specific scenarios. So this is like just a huge directory of all the skills that you currently build out, or all of the APIs that you're currently using.
Yeah, and you do want to be a little bit careful about, there's no API keys as I can see them right now. So okay, I might have to rotate some of these. But like when you share this kind of stuff, if there's API keys in here and someone gets a hold of that API key, now guess what? They can control whatever OpenClaw can control. So just be careful of that and ensure that you're not sharing API keys outside of your software or outside of your own context within your chat with anyone else. But typically there should be another folder in here called skills. I don't have it right now. I'll add it by just telling the bot to do it, and it will do it for me. So anyway, a while back, I created this skill, and then I've been calling that skill to now create this platform. And basically all that I did was, you can basically buy a domain, any domain you want, and then give that to your bot, and it will basically create these visualizations on top of that URL so that you can continue to build stuff like what I'm showing you here. And so it's not built on top of Apify. Apify is one of the sub tools, let's call it, that it's using inside of the skill. Does that make sense, Eric?
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you.
Okay. So inside the knowledge base, something I also wanted to point out here, before I do anything else, does anyone have any questions about what we've shown so far? Okay. If I go home and then I go to social, one of the things I've started to create is basically my social posting calendar. And what I'm having my AI do in the back end is pull all of you can see there's a lot of Portuguese in here from my Claude notes. So these aren't going to get posted to social media, but like when I'm done with it, when it's done with a transcript, say I have a mentorship call with the MHP pros. At the end of that call, it's going to pull the transcript. It's going to pull insights from the transcript. It's going to pull friction. It's going to pull ideas, and it's going to create, based on rules that I've set up, all these social posts, right? And then I can go through, I can give it feedback. I can change it directly. I've actually built a better version of this. This is like one of the earliest iterations. And then I can have it schedule to be posted to a bunch of different places. And so this has been extremely powerful for me to get ideas from what we've already said out loud, right? These are not bullshit ideas that I had an AI bot come up with on the spot using an LLM. Hey, create a story about I dropped my pen today and how that relates to mobile home parks. No, like we want actual context from actual conversations, actual lessons learned. And I happen to have a good repository of that information from conversations I've had with all of you at the MHP pros. And to give you an example, this $6.5 million deal looked perfect on paper. This was a conversation I had with someone who was actually under contract for a mobile home park, and they had this capital stack set up. So 2.7 seller note, 4.5. We actually figured out, $754,000 worth of debt service. That was the actual number on the call. And then my suggestion was, let's delete this creative financing because it's killing your deal, your cash flow. And let's add one clean agency note to it because this will qualify for agency. And so with that new agency financing at 6%, which is probably what you'll get today in today's market, you're now crushing your cash flow. I didn't even think about that as a post, but OpenClaw did. So just really cool things you can use to streamline these types of processes. Portuguese, this was another great one. You can actually use this to learn Portuguese. This is pulling from my actual lessons. And then I can go through here and say whether it was hard. And I do this 5 minutes a night to bring back to context what I learned in that Portuguese lesson. It's another good example of like real world things you can use it for. I have a habit tracker, which I have not kept up with at all. I promise you guys, I brush my teeth. I just do not track it here. Water, steps, workout, etc. So this kind of stuff I just built on the fly. And this is just built into personal life type stuff. It doesn't always have to be about work. And then here, it actually has the drives built out. And I only have 5 minutes left here. So what I want to talk about before we dive into any more use cases is, if you want to do this, how the hell can you? And that kind of brings us to Agentic Beaver, which is what we've built to help people who are business owners who don't want all the complexity of setting this up and learning how to use it in like a one-stop shop for everybody to jump on board and start using this stuff very easily at a low cost, right? So how can we help you? This is our sales pitch more or less on like how we can get this done for you. We've had a bunch of beta testers. A lot of them are on the call already, and they can tell you that the setup process was seamless, that the team that we work with, Ramez, Aziz, and Amin, are fantastic, and they will help you set up from A to Z all of this, and then it's done within an hour, and then you just take off. And I'm lucky and privileged to have some people on the call who have actually experienced this in real time. And so maybe I'll hand it over to Tiernan to talk about his experience so far. Tiernan, by the way, I hope you don't get upset with me saying this, is not super tech savvy. And so what I was mind blown by was that like within a day, I think he stayed up all night building stuff with it. And he just like super excited about it. And he was like an anti-AI person like 6 months ago. So Tiernan, can you jump in and talk about your experience with the setup and the team, if you would be so kind?
Yeah, it really has been incredible. And it is really funny because I was very AI skeptical and I was just waiting for a use case where it would actually help my business. And it just making AI flop photos or summarizing a paragraph like that, it just didn't appeal to me enough. But when I saw you start using OpenClaw and it's literally running our business, sending messages with our Quo business phone service and sending emails and just doing crazy stuff, I'm like, wow, like you would be a fool to not adopt this. So now I went literally from being anti-AI, not even using ChatGPT within a few months, to trying to figure out how OpenClaw can manage my entire life.
And I think we're all on that path. And I think it can also be super overwhelming at first, because when you don't know what you don't know, and then when you do know what you don't know, it gets even more overwhelming. But that's why we're here. That's why we're here to help, because we're trying to close the gap on that knowledge issue that exists. And so far, we've been able to do that pretty successfully without even really creating a full-blown educational platform on this, which we're in the process of making. But I think that goes to show just how intuitive the platform is itself without the need for further education. However, I spend 5 hours a weekend learning about this stuff, and I do my best every day to teach you guys what I'm learning so that you can learn from it too. So some of the things we have coming soon are the one-click skill install. So stuff like Eric was just like, I wanted to build this, but I was going about it the wrong way, etc. We've already built it. So like, why are you going through the hassle of doing that? We're going to build this skill for you, like you just saw, and then you can one-click install it into your OpenClaw. We're going to be creating the types of dashboards I just showed you, right? So like on the home screen, on the dashboard home screen, where you can see what's going on, how many tasks, et cetera, what it's working on. This is going to be even better than what you're seeing here because my dev team's working on it, not me. So the team on the call, they're fantastic. They are actual developers and they're putting together a real live dashboard that's going to be incredible. And I cannot wait to see it. It's in process and I think they're close to completion. So that should be rolling out soon. We're going to be introducing different models that you can use for like a third of the cost of the $200 max plan that exists for Claude. You don't have to get the $200 max plan, especially if you're not a power user. You can start at the $20 plan or you can use OpenAI. But I will caution you that OpenAI's codex is not nearly as good as Anthropic's Claude. I would push you towards Claude and just get a $20 subscription to start. The bot dashboard I just talked about. So that's all for $29 a month. You get your own personal assistant with a one-click install. And then if you want us to install it for you, it's just $297. And the only reason we have to charge this is because our team, unfortunately, does not have unlimited time and they have to work on this stuff on a monthly basis, right? Or on a daily basis, they have to work on it so that you can get really good value for that $29 a month in order to get those done for you installs, which also includes a 1-hour onboarding call, configuration of all of your Gmail accounts, configuration of basically everything you can think of during that 1-hour call. It's really great. And I think if you tried to do this yourself, you might be able to do it. But let me tell you, Terminal, if you don't even know what this means, just set up a call for us to set it up for you, because terminal is very confusing and running these things yourself is very confusing. You'll get full support from us if you go the DIY option at $29 a month. But if you want it a fully fleshed, fully built out system, then, I would go with this option if you want to set it up with our guidance. So I know we're running up on time here. Tiernan, Ramez, anything that you wanted to add here?
You said everything perfectly. And as you said about the dashboard and everything, that's our top priority for now. We're working very hard now to make it an even easier experience than it is now, through the dashboard, to install skills, to basically share the knowledge that we learned into one easy one-click installs. One of the priorities for now is the use cases that you built into the demo, making them easily installable with one click to anyone that likes them via call. So if anyone from the call wants to steal like the lender outreach tool that you built, he can install it in his own OpenClaw securely with one click.
Very cool. Thank you, Ramez. Guys, if you want to download this, if you want to get started, just go to akara.club. We're going to be shifting over to Agentic Beaver, but this will, if you go to akara.club, it will redirect anyway. But this is the website. So just head over here. I'll also make sure I include that link in the school community. And anybody who wants to talk more about this, of course, feel free to reach out to me anytime. You have my email, you have me on school DMs. I'm happy to talk about this ad nauseum because I love it. I get really excited about it. So thanks everyone for joining. I don't know who's still on the call, but I appreciate all the participants joining and learning alongside us. This is only going to get better over time. And I'm really excited to help you learn how to automate your life and your business. Talk soon, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Michael.
Absolutely.